So today we are going to be talking about breaking down books, okay? So sometimes in order for us to comprehend or understand the meaning of a story, we have to read it a couple times. Sometimes we have to stop and have discussions, ask ourselves questions, make observations. So we're gonna practice doing that, okay? So I don't know if any of you guys have read this book. It's called The Invisible Boy. And that's okay if you've read it before, because this time we're going to go in, we're going to ask some questions, and we're going to have some discussion, okay? So if you know what happens in the book, that's okay, but try not to spoil it for anyone who hasn't, okay? Okay, so this book is called The Invisible Boy. So before we start reading, let's look at the picture and read the title, and then let's make some predictions. What do you think this story is about? I want you to turn to somebody beside you and quietly tell them what you think the book is about. Cora, do you want to come sit by Laura? Do you want to come sit by Laura so you can talk to her? Alrighty. I want one person to volunteer and raise their hand to share. Dexter?
He's invisible because nobody
Listen.
Nobody notices him and picks him in games.
Dexter says that he thinks that the boy is invisible because no one notices him. Because they're too busy with other things. Let's read and see if he's right. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Miss Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. So why do you think that the teacher is having a hard time noticing her, or him? Cam?
Because Nathan and Sophie are always being just mad and screaming.
That takes away from her attention to him, doesn't it? Makes it hard for her to notice him. So I think Dexter's on the right track. Nathan has problems with what Miss Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. The best players get picked first, and then the best friends of the best players, and then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left, still waiting and hoping. How does Michael and JT choose players for their team? Aurora?
It's like in order he's doing it.
Maybe choosing favorites?
Yeah, favorites.
Would we call it that?
But he thinks Brian, he's not good at it, so he says
Do you think that they're not choosing Brian because they can't see him because he's invisible?
no, invisible.
Do you think that it's fair that they chose Brian last? How do you think Brian feels about that? Sad. Maybe he's lonely. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. Okay. So this one says, I would feel really bad if someone pretended to not notice me. How do you think you would feel if you were Brian?
Sad.
Jason? Mad? Cam? David? Sad? I think I would kind of feel jealous too, not getting to play with all the other kids. I think that's a good way to describe it. Let's see what happens. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. The rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the water slide, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun, says Madison. Everybody did, except Brian. He wasn't invited. this one says, we don't really know if Madison and her friends were being mean to Brian or were they just being thoughtless. Can someone tell me what it means to be thoughtless? Jason?
I forgot.
Okay, Dexter, you wanna help him out?
Like they didn't remember he was in.
Yeah, if they didn't do it on purpose, maybe they were just doing it without thinking. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What could she have done differently? Kinsley said that Madison could have invited Brian to his birthday party. Do you think that would make him feel less invisible?
Yes.
Why do you think Brian doesn't say anything to his classmates? He doesn't ever, ask to be invited. He doesn't yell at them or get upset. Why do you think that is? They won't notice him? Maybe he's being nice and trying to be a better character, maybe? Aurora?
Trying to be calm.
Calm, that's a good way. Okay. At choosing time, when the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table, doing what he loves to do best.
Wow.
He draws fire-breathing dragons scaling tall buildings.
That's
Space aliens locked in intergalactic battles. Greedy pirates digging for treasures. And superheroes with the power to make friends wherever they go. This one says, thank you for toasting my marshmallow. He's talking about the dragon toasting his marshmallow. That's funny.
What's the bird and the parrot?
This alien is saying, I got you now. And the pirate says, crackers, arg. And the parrot says, yay. And then this superhero says hi to the little boy. And he says, hi friend, have a cookie. That'd be a pretty cool superpower. On Monday morning, Miss Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friends. They haven't quite made up their minds yet.
Wait, I think I'm going to be best friends.
David made a prediction. He thinks that Justin and Brian are going to become friends. Do you think that he's right? Yes? Let's see. This says, these children are looking to see if Justin is cool enough to be their friend. What does it take to be a real friend? I want you to turn to a partner and talk about what it takes to be a real friend. Danielle, you want to scoot up and talk about that? What does it take to be a good friend? Okay, Eris, will you share what your group said? Boys and girls, let's listen. Alright, boys and girls, let's see what Eris has to say. What? Don't bully and be nice. I would say that's a pretty good friend. Aurora?
You should help people whenever they need help.
Helping others when they need help. Ella?
If they fall down, you can help them back up.
Helping others when they fall down. Cam? Boys and girls, let's be listening.
Even though in sports they don't win, you can tell them they had a good try.
That's a good one. Cam said that whenever you're playing games, you could have good sportsmanship by telling others that they did a good job, even if they lost. Jason? Those are all good descriptions of good friends. At lunchtime, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. What's that? Asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. Justin says, it's bulgogi. Bula what? Bulgogi. It's a Korean barbecue beef my grandma made for me. It's really good. Do you want to try some? There's no way I would eat bulgogi.
You.
And the kids laugh. All of them, that is, except for Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or feeling invisible. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian. Yeah. Do you think that was nice of him to do? The note says, Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian. And it was from Justin. That must have been what he was eating for lunch, the bulgogi. At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. You're Brian, right? Says Justin. Yeah, says Brian. Thanks for the note. Hey, Justin, Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. You're up next. Sorry, I gotta go, says Justin. By the way, that's a really cool drawing, he adds before taking off. I'm noticing that the illustrator, the person who drew the story, gave Brian a little more color on this page. That makes me think that Brian is feeling a little less invisible. He must be happy that Justin is being his friend. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, and noticing him.
I saw Oliver notice earlier on a previous page that Brian was getting more color. Good observation, Oliver. Back in class, Miss Carlotti asked the kids to team up in 2s and 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads towards Justin. I'm already with Justin, says Emilio. Find someone else. Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Miss Carlotti said we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let him work with us. Okay, I guess. The words on this page say that Brian wants to draw a hole to swallow him up. I think the author really means Brian is sad because he wants to disappear because he feels left out again. Do you think that's right?
No. He got more color.
He did get more color.
I think he was getting mad at him, so he was like, he was getting mad at the other person because they said he couldn't be with her. He wanted to put that whole like swallow Brian.
Do you think he was really going to draw a real hole to swallow him, or do you think he was just expressing his emotions? Miss Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun. He does. Let's see what happens. Whoa, cool, says Emilio. What kind of people do you think live in houses like that? I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story, says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. Do you think that Brian is feeling more noticed?
Yes.
Do you think he feels less invisible?
Yes.
Why do you think he feels less invisible?
Because
They are being noticed him. Do you think he feels more important?
Yes.
Do you think he feels more cared for?
Yes.
And here is the boys. They're working together and they're going to draw a picture. See, they're all working together, being nice friends. And then they created costumes and they're putting on a little play to show the drawings. And it says the crooked story we made up on the spot. See, they read the story to the class and shared their pictures and their costumes. What do you notice about Brian?
He's all colored.
He is all colored. It's lunchtime again, Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another 20 long minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. Brian hears someone shout, "Hey Brian, over here!" Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. They invited him to lunch. I want you to talk with your partner, and I want you to talk about ways that Justin and Emilio are making Brian feel less invisible.
Okay, so like with the more unhappy, like I'm not being together or
Diego, do you want to share what your group talked about? What are some ways that Justin and Emilio are making Brian feel less invisible?
talking to a lot.
Talking to him? Good job. Cam? Letting him eat lunch with them. Boys? Ella?
Playing and having fun with them.
Playing and having fun with him. Aurora, last one.
Like caring and like thinking about them more, having fun with him more.
Aurora said an important word. She said caring. Do you think that someone might feel invisible if they don't feel cared for? I think so too. And I think that whenever someone shows that they care about you, it makes you feel good inside, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Let's see. Justin offers Brian a cookie and he says thanks. Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. So was Dexter's prediction right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were you gonna say, Oliver?
Brian's a superhero.
He is a superhero making friends, isn't he? Good job, boys and girls. That was called breaking down a book, and that helps us work on comprehension. And comprehension is whenever you are able to understand a text or a book and you're able to answer questions, and that's exactly what you guys did today, okay? So good job. Give yourself a pat on the back. All right, so y'all can go back to your seats.